Season 6 of The Chosen is unlike anything we've seen before. It's not a grand sweep of time or a collection of various stories. It's all focused on one single, transformative day. Yes, you heard that right. One day, the day before the crucifixion, from the Last Supper to the betrayal in the garden. From Peter's denial to the trial before Pilate, this season takes us deep into the night, capturing the emotional and spiritual essence of those final hours in a way only The Chosen can. Dallas Jenkins and his team have really outdone themselves this time, pushing the boundaries of storytelling and capturing the very darkness that cloaked these pivotal moments. Almost the entire season takes place at night, not just as a stylistic choice, but as a way to mirror the heaviness of the story. There's a reason the betrayal, the denial, and the trial all happened under the cover of darkness. It wasn't just a historical backdrop. It was a symbol of the weight of those actions. The fact that The Chosen filmed most of these moments in that same darkness is a powerful, poetic choice. It's as if we, too, are walking alongside the disciples and witnesses, feeling the weight of every decision, every moment, and every word. There's something so hauntingly beautiful about the way this show brings this story to life. It's not just about showing what happened. It's about making us feel it. Dallas Jenkins himself has said that this is the most emotionally and spiritually demanding season they've ever done. And it's easy to see why. We're talking about moments that shaped not just history, but the very foundation of faith for billions of people. In the first episode, we're thrown right into the trial of Jesus. The apostles, desperate to defend him, stand by his side. But Jesus, he chooses silence. Not out of weakness, but out of understanding. He knows that no words can change the minds of those who have already made up their minds. He knows that they're not worthy of his words. And yet, he remains silent. It's a moment that's both powerful and heartbreaking, as we watch the Son of God, the one who has healed the sick, fed the hungry, and forgiven sins, stand in front of those who have condemned him without hesitation. But this silence is more than just a refusal to speak. It's a statement of divine will. In the Gospels, we see that Jesus' trial wasn't just one event. It was a series of moments, a sequence of misunderstandings, manipulations, and betrayals. It begins with Annas, a man who still holds power, even though he's no longer the high priest. His questions to Jesus are cruel, designed to undermine the truth, yet Jesus responds with such simplicity, such grace. "I've spoken openly," he says. "Why question me now?" But then, the unthinkable happens. One of the guards slaps Jesus across the face. That moment will hit you hard, and it's just the beginning. From there, Jesus is taken to Caiaphas and the real chaos begins. The Sanhedrin, the religious council, is in full swing, trying to find anything, any evidence, to convict Jesus. But no matter how hard they try, the testimonies don't match up. There's no truth in the accusations. It's just noise, lies, and confusion. But then Caiaphas, desperate for answers, looks Jesus in the eye and asks the one question that will seal his fate. "Are you the Messiah?" And in the most profound and powerful moment, Jesus says, "You have said so. But I say to all of you, from now on, you will see the Son of Man sitting at the right hand of the Mighty One and coming on the clouds of heaven." That's it. With those words, he's condemned to die. The drama doesn't end there. They need Roman approval for an execution. So Jesus is taken before Pontius Pilate. Pilate, despite the mounting pressure from the crowds and the religious leaders, doesn't see a reason to condemn Jesus. "I find no fault in him," he says. But what happens next is nothing short of tragic. Pilate, unable to make the right choice, sends Jesus to Herod Antipas, hoping for some miracle or sign. But Herod doesn't get that. Instead, he mocks Jesus, dressing him in a royal robe as a joke and sending him back to Pilate. Pilate's situation only worsens. He tries to offer the crowd a way out, offering to release a prisoner for the Passover. The choice is between Jesus, this innocent man, and Barabbas, a known criminal. And what does the crowd choose? They scream for Barabbas. Pilate, defeated, has no choice but to give in. As Jesus is handed over, we witness the brutal flogging, not just a few lashes, but a brutal beating that tears his flesh, that breaks his spirit. And the mocking doesn't stop. Roman soldiers place a crown of thorns on his head, jeering, "Hail, King of the Jews." But the pain and humiliation are just the beginning. It's not until later that we truly understand the depth of what's about to happen. This first episode sets the stage for a season unlike any other. It's raw, it's painful, and it's deeply spiritual. And as the story unfolds, we'll witness not just the events leading up to the crucifixion, but also the profound emotional and spiritual weight they carry. Season 6 is not just a show. It's a journey into the heart of the most defining moment in human history. As we continue our journey through The Chosen Season 6, the emotional intensity only deepens. The silence of Jesus during his trial is not just a passive act of restraint. It's a deliberate choice, a powerful statement. It's a moment that speaks volumes about his understanding of the world and the events unfolding around him. This silence, this refusal to defend himself, is not about weakness, it's about strength. Jesus knows that his fate is already sealed, and that no words will change the hearts of those who have already chosen their path. It's a quiet surrender to God's will, one that reverberates through the entire season. Imagine standing in that courtroom, surrounded by voices clamoring for judgment. Yet, the one person who could end it all with a word chooses to remain silent. The weight of that silence is almost unbearable. For the disciples, this is the moment they begin to realize that the road ahead is not what they expected. It's not just the betrayal of Judas that shakes them. It's the realization that Jesus, the one they followed, the one they believed would lead them to victory, is about to face an unimaginable fate. The idea of the Messiah suffering was a concept too far beyond their comprehension. They had hoped for a king to overthrow the Roman oppressors, not a lamb to be led to slaughter. But in this silence, we also see the depth of betrayal. Judas, one of the 12 who had walked alongside Jesus, had witnessed the miracles, felt the power of his words, and yet, in the dead of night, he chose to betray him. The price, 30 silver coins. The most chilling part of this is not just the act of betrayal, but the fact that it is done in darkness. Judas sneaks away to the religious leaders under the cover of night, selling out the very one who had entrusted him with so much. The darkness of the night mirrors the darkness of his soul, and as he approaches Jesus with a kiss, the infamous signal of betrayal, there's a moment of deep tragedy. It's a betrayal that not only shocks the disciples, but also pierces the heart of Jesus. The way The Chosen handles this moment is masterful. The emotions on Judas's face are complex. There's guilt, there's fear, but there's also resolve. He knows exactly what he's doing, and he chooses it anyway. This isn't the act of someone who is ignorant of the consequences. It's the act of someone who has been overtaken by greed and desperation. The kiss, so innocent on the surface, becomes a symbol of the deepest treachery. And as Jesus looks at him, he doesn't react with anger or hatred. Instead, he calls Judas friend, a word that makes the betrayal feel all the more heartbreaking. It's a moment that will leave you stunned. And it's just the beginning. As the betrayal unfolds, the camera shifts between the faces of the disciples, capturing their horror and disbelief. Peter, the most vocal of them all, is paralyzed. He can't believe what he's seeing. His mind must be racing with questions. How could Judas do this? Why didn't we see it coming? Wasn't this supposed to be the plan? What happens now? In the midst of this, we're taken back to Jesus, who has already begun his walk to the Garden of Gethsemane. The tension is palpable. The sense of doom is inevitable. Jesus knows what lies ahead, and yet he walks forward with a quiet resolve. It's in this garden, under the weight of the world's sins, that we see Jesus at his most human. He prays, "Father, if you are willing, take this cup from me. Yet not my will, but yours be done." These words carry the weight of eternity. It's in this moment of vulnerability that we witness the very essence of his sacrifice. The disciples, meanwhile, are struggling to stay awake. Their inability to fully grasp the gravity of the situation is heartbreaking. Jesus' words to them, "Could you not keep watch for 1 hour?" are not just a rebuke, but a reflection of his loneliness in this moment. The one who has walked with them, healed them, taught them, is now about to face the darkest hour of all, and they can't even stay awake to pray with him. As Jesus continues to pray, his anguish grows. He knows what is coming, and yet he is willing to face it. The emotional weight of this scene is unimaginable. Imagine, for a moment, knowing that the very people you've loved, taught, and healed are about to abandon you. That they will be too afraid, too lost in their own fear, to stand by you in your time of need. And yet, Jesus remains committed to the task ahead. This moment in the garden is a powerful reminder of the love, sacrifice, and humanity of Christ. As we move forward, the camera shifts back to the disciples, who are now beginning to wake up, only to see Jesus being arrested. Peter, in a desperate attempt to defend his teacher, draws his sword and strikes one of the guards. But Jesus, in the same calm and collected manner, tells him to put the sword away. "Shall I not drink the cup the Father has given me?" Jesus asks. His words are resolute, even in the face of imminent danger. And just like that, the disciples flee. Peter, in particular, is torn between loyalty and fear. His instinct is to fight for Jesus, but the reality of the situation sets in. The one he swore to follow is now being taken away, and his heart is filled with confusion and fear. In this section of The Chosen, the betrayal, the garden scene, and the arrest all come together to form a moment of intense spiritual and emotional tension. The stakes have never been higher. The path to the cross is set in motion, and we, as the audience, can feel the weight of each step. The journey is about to get even darker, but it's also about to reveal the incredible depth of love and sacrifice that would change everything. As the arrest of Jesus unfolds, we are thrust into the heart of a spiritual and political drama that will forever mark history. The disciples have scattered, their faith shaken, their resolve broken, and now the Son of God is being dragged through the streets, his future uncertain, while the forces of evil converge to carry out their twisted plans. The trial of Jesus is a surreal moment, not just in the physical sense, but in the profound spiritual reality it represents. When Jesus is brought before Annas, the former high priest, we see a man who wields his power with ruthless intent. Annas' interrogation is not one of justice, but of intimidation. He questions Jesus, trying to find any crack in his demeanor that could be used to accuse him. But Jesus, in his infinite wisdom, remains calm. With a single, profound statement, he answers, "I have spoken openly to the world. I always taught in synagogues or at the temple, where all the Jews come together. I said nothing in secret. Why question me?" This exchange, seemingly simple, is packed with a deeper message. Jesus points out that his teachings were never hidden. They were public, accessible to anyone who chose to listen. This isn't just about defending his innocence. It's a declaration that he has been transparent and consistent with his mission. He's not hiding anything from them. He's not afraid of the truth. But what's most striking is the reaction. To his words, one of the guards, unable to respond to the truth, strikes Jesus across the face. The brutality of this moment is chilling, as Jesus remains silent, enduring the slap without retaliation. This isn't just physical abuse. It's a symbol of the rejection of truth itself. Jesus, the embodiment of truth, is rejected not only by the religious leaders but by the very world he came to save. Next, Jesus is sent to Caiaphas, the current high priest, where the trial takes a darker turn. The Sanhedrin, the ruling council, has assembled in haste, desperate to find any testimony, any witness, to condemn Jesus. Yet, despite all the accusations, the testimonies don't align. It's a farce. They are grasping for anything, but the truth evades them. In a moment of sheer desperation, Caiaphas looks Jesus in the eye and demands, "Are you the Messiah, the Son of the Blessed One?" In that moment, Jesus' response is not just a confirmation, but a proclamation. "I am," he says, and then he adds something that will forever change the course of history. "And you will see the Son of Man sitting at the right hand of the Mighty One and coming on the clouds of heaven." This statement is more than just a claim to divine authority. It is a declaration of the ultimate truth. Jesus is asserting his identity as the Messiah, the Son of God, and as the fulfillment of prophecy. This is the moment that seals his fate. In the eyes of the Jewish leaders, to claim such power and authority was blasphemy in their eyes. And it is precisely this statement that leads Caiaphas to tear his robes in a dramatic act of outrage. "Why do we need any more witnesses?" he declares. "You have heard the blasphemy. What do you think?" The council unanimously agrees. Jesus must die. But there's a catch. Under Jewish law, they don't have the power to carry out an execution. So, despite their verdict, they must now turn to the Roman authorities. This is where things get even more tragic. Jesus is handed over to Pontius Pilate, the Roman governor. Pilate, who presides over the trial, is a man caught between the pressure of the crowd and his own conscience. He doesn't believe Jesus has committed any crime worthy of death. In fact, Pilate seems to recognize Jesus' innocence, repeatedly stating, "I find no fault in him." But the religious leaders and the crowds are relentless. They want Jesus to be condemned, and they won't stop until they get their way. Pilate, torn between his duty to Rome and the mounting pressure from the crowd, tries to find a way out. He offers them a choice. He will release one prisoner for the Passover, Jesus or Barabbas, a known criminal. In a moment of sheer disbelief, Pilate asks, "What shall I do then with Jesus, who is called the Messiah?" The crowd's response is deafening. "Crucify him." Pilate is stunned. He tries to reason with them, even saying, "Why? What crime has he committed?" But the crowd won't relent. They keep shouting louder, demanding Jesus' crucifixion. This moment is filled with both political and spiritual tension. Pilate, a man of power, is clearly conflicted. He knows that condemning an innocent man is unjust, but the pressure from the religious leaders and the volatile crowd make it impossible to avoid. In an act of desperation, Pilate washes his hands in front of the crowd, symbolizing his attempt to absolve himself of responsibility for Jesus' death. "I am innocent of this man's blood," he declares, but deep down, he knows the truth. He's allowing an innocent man to die for the sake of political expediency. What happens next is nothing short of tragic. Pilate, unable to free Jesus, hands him over to be flogged. The flogging is brutal, a punishment so severe that it would leave the victim barely able to stand. The Roman soldiers strip Jesus, beat him with a whip that tears his flesh, and mock him with a crown of thorns. The irony of the situation is almost too much to bear. They mock the King of Kings by placing a crown of pain on his head. "Hail, King of the Jews!" they shout, striking him again and again. The brutality is unimaginable. But what's even more heartbreaking is that Jesus endures it all without a word of protest. The emotional depth of this scene is overwhelming. Pilate, in his attempt to remain neutral, has effectively condemned Jesus to a fate worse than death. The Roman soldiers, having no understanding of who Jesus truly is, mock him with cruelty, unaware that they are striking the very one who will save them and the crowd. The same people who once praised Jesus as the Messiah now call for his death, screaming for his crucifixion. This moment in The Chosen is a profound reflection on the nature of humanity. It shows how easily people can turn against what they know to be true, driven by fear, ignorance, or power. The brutality of Jesus' treatment, combined with the injustice of the trial, is a powerful reminder of the lengths to which humans will go to maintain control and avoid the truth. As the scene unfolds, we are left with a haunting question. How can the world demand the death of an innocent man? How can a system so full of corruption and hate bring about the crucifixion of the Savior? These questions linger, and the answers only become clearer as the story progresses. Jesus, in his silence, his suffering, and his ultimate sacrifice, is showing the world that love and forgiveness are more powerful than hate and violence. As we continue through the gripping narrative of The Chosen Season 6, we enter the most agonizing and humiliating moments of Jesus' trial. The brutality of the Roman soldiers is something we can hardly fathom. After the flogging, after the mockery, the suffering intensifies. Jesus, battered and bloodied, is forced to wear the crown of thorns that the soldiers cruelly pressed onto his head. It's not just a symbol of mockery, it's a reflection of the deep, raw pain he is enduring for the sins of the world. The soldiers, completely unaware of the significance of their actions, treat Jesus with contempt. They kneel before him, but not in worship. Instead, they mockingly shout, "Hail, King of the Jews," as they strike him, laugh, and abuse him further. The cruelty is incomprehensible. Jesus, who performed miracles, who healed the sick, and who had the power to silence this mocking crowd with a single word, remains silent. The weight of this silence is profound. It's not just a refusal to respond to the insults. It's the choice to endure it all, to suffer for those who will never truly understand the depth of his love. In these moments, we are reminded of the incredible humility of Jesus, the King of the universe, the Son of God, who could command legions of angels to destroy his enemies. Instead, chooses to endure humiliation and pain for the very people who are condemning him. The soldiers don't realize that the very one they mock is the King of Glory, the Savior of the world. And yet, he chooses not to retaliate, not to strike back, but to bear their hatred in silence. His self-control, his patience, his sacrifice are beyond anything the world has ever seen. That as the mocking continues. The psychological and emotional weight of Jesus' suffering is unbearable. It's not just physical pain, it's the rejection, the betrayal, the humiliation of being treated as less than human. Jesus is not just suffering at the hands of the Roman soldiers. He is suffering on behalf of all humanity. The pain he endures is not just for the Roman soldiers or the religious leaders who condemned him. It's for every person, every sin, every betrayal throughout history. Once the mocking reaches its peak, Jesus is forced to carry the cross on his back, the very instrument of his execution. The journey to Golgotha is a brutal one. Jesus, already weakened by the flogging, stumbles under the weight of the cross. The streets are crowded with people, many of whom had witnessed his miracles, some of whom had been part of the crowds that cheered for him just days before. But now they look on in silence. Some turn their heads, some whisper in disbelief, while others jeer and mock. The Savior of the world, the Messiah they had hoped would overthrow their oppressors, is now a condemned criminal, stumbling to his death. The journey to Golgotha is not just a physical one. It is the culmination of every prophecy, every word that Jesus spoke about his mission. It's the fulfillment of his purpose on earth. This is the moment he was born for. This is the moment that will change everything. As he stumbles, as he falls, he is not just carrying the weight of the cross. He is carrying the weight of the world's sin, the weight of humanity's brokenness. The pain is so great that Simon of Cyrene is forced to help Jesus carry the cross. This moment, though seemingly insignificant, is deeply symbolic. Simon, an outsider, is compelled to carry the burden that Jesus is bearing. It's a reminder that Jesus' sacrifice isn't just for the Jewish people or the disciples. It's for the whole world. For all who are willing to follow him, Simon's willingness to help is a small but powerful reflection of the fact that Jesus' sacrifice would one day be the means of salvation for all. As they approach Golgotha, the place of the skull, the atmosphere grows heavier. The scene is set for the most significant event in human history. The world, though unaware, is about to change forever. Every step Jesus takes toward Golgotha is a step closer to the fulfillment of God's redemptive plan. The people watch, some in curiosity, some in disbelief, and some in horror, as the one they had hoped would save them is now on the brink of death. What happens next is almost too painful to bear. Jesus is nailed to the cross, his hands and feet pierced by sharp iron nails. The physical pain is indescribable, but it's the emotional and spiritual anguish that cuts the deepest. As he hangs on the cross, Jesus is not just suffering the agony of crucifixion. He is bearing the weight of the world's sins. Every strike of the hammer, every drop of bloodshed, is a symbol of the price that must be paid for the salvation of mankind. The people around the cross mock Jesus, daring him to come down if he truly is the Son of God. The soldiers divide his clothes among themselves, casting lots, fulfilling yet another prophecy. The religious leaders taunt him, saying, "He saved others. Let him save himself." But Jesus doesn't come down from the cross. He stays. He remains on the cross, not because he can't save himself, but because he chooses not to. This moment on the cross is the epicenter of human history. It's the moment when God, in his infinite love and mercy, takes on the full weight of human sin. The perfect, sinless Son of God is paying the price for the imperfections, the mistakes, and the brokenness of every person who has ever lived. And he does it willingly, with no desire for vengeance, no cry for mercy. He bears it all in silence, in love. As we watch this unfold, we realize the gravity of the moment. The king, who was mocked and humiliated, now hangs on a cross, not in defeat, but in victory. The cross is not the end. It is the beginning. Jesus' willingness to suffer and die is the ultimate act of love, the ultimate act of redemption. It is the means by which humanity is reconciled to God, the means by which the broken are made whole. That as the scene intensifies, the emotional weight becomes too much to bear. The very moment we've all been waiting for, the sacrifice that changes everything, is unfolding right before our eyes. And as the camera lingers on the suffering Jesus, we are left with a single, unshakable truth. Love has triumphed over death, and the world will never be the same again.